K98 Talk is expanding its lineup for 2015. This means we are expanding our advertising base. Whether you're a startup trying to push through to the next level or an established business trying to supplement your advertising budget, web-based advertising is a solid investment. Thanks to Talk's newest partnership with TuneIn Radio and instant access to our sister station, K98 FM, we give you worldwide access at a reasonable cost. Interested parties should email us at sales@k98fm.com. K98talk.com, a leader in internet radio. So grab your seatbelts and take the ride of your life on K98talk.com.
We will never fully understand what we've asked of our military service members or their families, asking them to put themselves in harm's way, to endure it all. But we do understand that it's our turn, our duty, to keep them secure for the rest of their lives. Wounded Warrior Project long-term support programs help our most severely ill or injured veterans live independently, at no cost, for life, so that they might stand at ease. Join us at findwwp.org.
We will keep this promise to the American people. If you like your doctor, you will be able to keep your doctor, period. If you like your health care plan, you will be able to keep your health care plan, period.
This is the most transparent administration in history. Not even a smidgen of corruption.
Fact is, we had 4 dead Americans. What difference at this point does it make?
If you got a business, you didn't build that.
Oh, welcome to the face. Welcome to the face of the new democracy. Don't expect us to admit a mistake. We're paying off election debts to those on the take. Attorney General's lying even while...
It's time to hear the truth about America's biggest challenges. You're listening to America Off the Rails with your host, Rick Robinson.
All right, folks. Well, happy Tuesday to you. It is April 21st, 2015. About 9 minutes after 6 Central Time, so a little bit after 7 Eastern and 4 Pacific. Thanks to everybody who's tuned in. This is America Off the Rails. I am your host, Rick Robinson. It's been a while since I've been with you. There's been a lot of stuff I've been having to do with behind the scenes, and like I said in a little snippet I did last night before we started doing some of the replay stuff, every once in a while my programming director hat has to take precedence over my talk show host hat, although this is the part I enjoy the most. Just hanging out with you guys, chatting it up. Do have a lot of things that we're going to be talking about today, so we might as well dive right in. I wasn't sure I was going to talk about this at first, but it actually does kind of play in with the overall theme of the show. Actually, for those of you who don't know, maybe this is your first time tuning in, I do have a day job. I work for the state. While I was at the day job, one of my coworkers pointed out something that I thought was rather amazing, and we actually started making a joke about it. A lot of us, are on a health kick. It's springtime, winter's over. You're kind of feeling a little more positive about yourself, so you're starting to watch what you eat a little more, maybe throwing a salad in here and there, maybe not doing the double cheeseburger quite so often. Mainly I'm talking about myself right now. I'm not casting any aspersions on anyone else. But that being said, one of the ladies that I work with had gotten some potato chips out of the vending machine, and they were the baked Lays. And, so she's like, hey, I'll eat these, they're at least a little more healthy than the fried ones. And, I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. So, she comes back by my little area while she's on her way back to her area, and she shows me the bag. She says, you're not going to believe this. I just opened these. And on the front of it says, 65% less fat. Well, I guess the joke was on her, because I guess part of the way they got you 65% less fat is they give you 50% less potato chips, because she had just opened it and it was 3/4 of the way empty. Of course, she said she was going to take a picture of it and send it off to Lay's and yada, yada, yada. No, they're not a sponsor of mine, so I don't have an issue with saying this right now. But yeah, so apparently, one of the ways they give you less fat is they give you overall less content. They just don't tell you that while they're charging you the same amount they charge you for the high-fat chips, which are usually at least halfway full, not 1/4 of the way full. But anyway, so moral of the story here, and this is kind of gonna be where we're gonna be going all day for the full hour, is we're gonna be talking about the total rampantness and the running rampantness of the PC police here in our country. Because the simple fact of the matter is, we have gone crazy. As of right now, I think we are probably the closest to the dystopian vision of the Demolition Man that I think I have ever seen in my life. And some of you right now, you're looking at me like I'm crazy. You're like, how can you say such a thing? We still live in the greatest country in the world, and I'm not disputing that. What I'm saying is, there's very little of that greatness left, and we're letting the folks that run everything drain it from us daily. No one's standing up to fight. And I say this again, and I'm not going to say that some of this stuff I don't agree with, but this is my case in point for at least part of what we're going to be talking about today, and then I have some other things too. But, just so we're clear, there has now been some modifications to the NYPD incoming Police Academy Handbook for the newest graduating class of cadets that just started. Some of the things that are now covered in that manual, which I commonly refer to as policing for dummies. Well, you know what? I have a clip for it, so instead of listening to me talk about it, why don't I just play you the clip? Let's do that. Because then at least it's not just me talking and you're not, oh, you're making this stuff up, man. There's no way this is possible. I'm telling you, it is. Not only is it, but I'll give you my whole tie it together here in a moment about why it is that I feel like we are slowly moving into the whole Demolition Man thing. So, but anyway, here's the clip first, or the first one.
NYPD recruits are about to get a crash course in the ABCs of policing. The federal monitor overseeing reforms to the NYPD wants the current class of police academy recruits to be taught groundbreaking new concepts like don't be racist, don't mock others, don't tell sexist jokes, and don't hassle people for no reason. The monitor, Peter Zimroth, included in filings more than 75 PowerPoint slides that delve into the nitty-gritty of police work, detail constitutional stop and frisk practices, and give remedial directions that it is hoped that officers already know. Some examples include do not intimidate the speech patterns of others, avoid expressing stereotypical assumptions, and do not engage in racial stereotyping. The material was developed in collaboration with the NYPD and City Hall, and that the new instructions were quickly prepared for the recruits who started classes at the police academy in January.
Alright, so there, you heard it. You know, things like don't be racist, don't harass people for no reason. And then the one that I like the most, and I'm wondering if it was a typo in the documentation or if the person that was actually reading the documentation read it incorrectly. But the simple fact is, he said don't intimidate the speech patterns of others. There's two words I can think of that would have fit there. One of them that's pretty close to intimidate, which is probably intimate, which is just a fancy word of saying don't copy other people. So I'm not sure if that's where they were going with it or what the situation is. But the first issue that I have with that is apparently, we are now too stupid to know that, police officers should be nice people. At least in general. As someone who wore a badge and a gun for quite some time, I resent the implication that we have to tell people to be nice. Now, as far as the jokes, I'm going to tell you this as an insider. You guys don't understand the type of sense of humor that it takes to be a police officer because you deal with things that suck. You deal with the suck every day. You are always on duty, no matter what. Whether you're in a uniform, whether you're in your patrol car, whether you're on your bike, whether you're out with your family. If you see something go down, you've at least got to respond somehow. Whether that be to call it in or depending on, if you've got small kids around. Most of us didn't like to do that type of stuff when we were on duty. When we had children around, whether that was private sector, public sector, whatever the case may be, a lot of us that do that type of work, or I say do, I don't do it anymore, but that did that type of work, it's a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week mindset. And the reason I bring this up to continue the point is there was a video that was going around a few days ago that another one of my coworkers at the day job actually commented on about it's no wonder that the police are hated because apparently there was a guy who was riding some sort of a motorbike and he was videotaping other people that were doing stupid crap on the highway. like passing him at high rates of speed, doing tricks, that kind of stuff. Well, eventually the cop pulls this guy over. Well, this guy, the first thing he says is, "Hey, what are you pulling me over for? You're harassing me." Okay, so that first of all lets me know that something probably happened on the video that we're never going to see because it probably happened beforehand. But this guy's whole take on it, and there was a back and forth with it for a few minutes, was just using in what we see in the video on face value, the cop completely overreached. Here's my issue. First of all, you're videotaping people that are doing things that are illegal on the highway. That makes you an accessory both before, during, and after the fact, because it was probably something that you planned beforehand. Can't tell you for sure that it was, but that's going to be my reasonable assumption. Now, not only that, I'm pretty sure that even though it was hooked up into his helmet somehow, that operating a camera while you're operating a motorcycle probably falls under distracted driving. So it's not like at some point the cop probably didn't have grounds to pull the guy over, because he had to realize he was filming somehow, because he specifically said when he first pulled him over, "Well, why have you stopped me?" Well, the first reason is we want to get a look at your camera film because we think that could be used as evidence for the folks that we now have on tape breaking crimes. And that's my issue right there. That's where I stop, because that's still First Amendment. He has the right to videotape whatever he wants. If he was breaking the law while he was doing it, then you might be able to you might be able to hold it as evidence of the fact that he was breaking the law. But I don't know if you would be able to use it to get other people in trouble for the things that they were doing. But one of the points that was made over and over and over again is the cop had no reason to stop him in the first place. Well, eventually the guy gets arrested. The guy gets arrested because, one, he's being total dick each time he's dealing with the cops. "You're harassing me. Why have you stopped me? I haven't done anything illegal. It doesn't matter what I'm videotaping because they're the ones that are doing things that are illegal." Again, we only see about 5 minutes of this video. So there's no telling what was happening before the police officer actually decided to make the stop, or what this guy did when maybe somebody else was videotaping. Again, all of that being said, I'm not okay with the cop trying to seize his camera. He could have asked him, but he didn't. He said, "Well, the main reason I've stopped you is because we're going to commandeer your film." And then he goes back to the car and comes back out and tells the guy that he's being placed under arrest because his license plate is obstructed. Now, I didn't see the name of the town on the side of the car, so I don't know if an obstructed license plate would be a jailable offense anywhere else, but I don't think it is here. Now, this is where I'm on the fence. Like I said, I'm not going to support the police officer for trying to take the guy's camera, even though he did try to do it to try to make things safer for other people, because what they could have done was pulled license plates, mailed citations, and used that video as evidence. If you would have asked him about that and the guy would have been okay with it, my issue would have stopped right there, because if the guy said, "Hey, sure, I didn't do anything, I'm just going for a ride, had my camera hooked up, these guys started doing all kinds of stuff, so I decided to film it because I thought it would be cool," and the cop said, "Hey, well, they're breaking the law, just so you know, and is it all right if we use the footage so we can try to track these people down and make sure they don't do things like this in the future?" If he'd have handled it that way, I'd have been completely golden. But the other issue you need to bear in mind is a lot of times the police officers, when they're dealing with the public, they deal in reciprocal action. This guy could have not started the conversation by, "Hey, why are you harassing me?" He could have started the conversation by saying, "I'm not sure why you've pulled me over. How can I help you?" And the police officer could have said, "Well, this is why I've stopped you, and this is what we want to do." And then the guy could have said yes or no. And then, like I said, at that point, if you're going to basically flip your finger at the cops, which is what happens when they tell you they're going to do something and you're like, "By God, no, you're not," then you better make sure that all your ish is in order, because if it's not, you're going to wind up just like this guy. And I'm not saying that because I'm a fan of the police state and the fact that we now seem to be oversensitive to the situations because of everything that's coming out now that video is becoming more popular and that everybody seems to have a camera. The issue is that these people are still people. They're not machines. They have reactions. They have emotions. They have feelings. They have bad days just like you do. When do you go to your job and you just have a meltdown? You know, everybody does it. There are days when I walk in the door and the first thing I want to do as soon as I sit down is I want to just run around the building screaming because I don't want to be there that day. There's other things that I would prefer to be doing, mainly building this particular station. But it doesn't mean that every cop should be painted with the same brush. And this is what I'm getting tired of. This is why I'm so angry with the fact that the NYPD basically just put out this new training manual that basically told a bunch of cops things that they should already know. But you also have to understand when it comes to police officers and private security officers and IMSA workers and ambulance drivers, for those of you who aren't in the Midwest, and firefighters, and all of those folks that deal with the things that none of us want to see on a daily basis. The things that none of us want to ever see, they deal with on a daily basis. So yes, they're going to have very morbid senses of humor. They're going to make jokes that are off color because that's how they deal. That's how they cope. And if it's wrong, you know what? So be it. These people are the ones that signed up to do the crap that none of us want to do, to borrow a phrase from George Bush. But the simple fact of the matter is, they're still people. They're going to make mistakes. When they make mistakes, they should be held accountable, which is why I defend the police officer in his original stop, because I don't know what happened before. What I do have an issue with is him basically outright telling the guy he was going to commandeer his camera to try to investigate the other folks' activities. But again, that's just another example of the police state, because as of now, with the whole political correctness thing and everything else that's going on, the police officers, they don't have any choice anymore. They have to enforce these things. They have to be out trying to write tickets. As a prime example, there's a town south of where I live where the police officers, who are off duty, mind you, are still in full uniform, still in their patrol cars, and they've been advised by their department to sit at a certain intersection so they can write as many seatbelt tickets as possible, because it seems like there's a high percentage of folks that come through that particular area that don't have their seatbelts on. So the officers are being advised and admonished to use some of their own personal time to write tickets. This is what happens when you have the police department become a monetary enforcement branch of the city government, which is what they were never intended to be that. I mean, you remember the Dukes of Hazzard and all the speed traps and all the little stupid crap that Boss Hogg used to have Roscoe do just to try to get more money into the Hazard County coffers? That's exactly what I feel like we're living in now, is this weird juxtaposition between Dukes of Hazzard and Demolition Man, because you've got the city council members and the mayors and everybody else all over their police departments to write more tickets so that the city can get more money, and at the same time you've got the federal government telling the police they should be the kinder, gentler, softer police. I mean, the thing about that is, and that's all well and good, but eventually at some point, if you keep telling your police department that they have to be the softer, kinder police, you're going to wind up with police officers like this.
You seem very much alone, John Spartan, but things aren't all that different. Perhaps you'd like to hear an oldies station. Oldies?
Oh, what a relief!
Oh, this is the most popular station in town. Wall-to-wall mini-tunes. You call them commercials.
Here's that classic you've all been waiting for. The #1 request of the day. Armor hot dogs.
Kids eat Armor hot dogs.
Oh, wow. This is my fave.
Skinny kids, kids who climb on rocks. Tall kids, sissy kids.
Even kids with chicken pox love hot dogs.
Armor hot dogs. The dogs kids love to
Somebody put me back in the fridge.
Alright, so in case you weren't sure, that was a scene from Demolition Man, and that was when it was shortly after John Spartan was thawed out, and that was two current San Angeles police officers and John Spartan in the back of their little tiny car. And I'm sorry, to me it's just humorous, because it seems to be that's the overall direction that we're heading. Is, you know, we've got to be politically correct. I mean, think about it for a second. And I do have to warn you, this next clip is going to be a little graphic. I may save it for a few minutes just to make sure that if we do have any children within earshot, it's probably going to be a good idea that you don't have them listen. And I will warn you once I actually play the clip, and I'll give it about 30 seconds for anybody to turn down the volume or turn away. But, you know, it's just another one of those PC police moments, because we have now officially turned over the internet to the control of the FCC. Anybody else terrified by that? Because the FCC, whether anybody wants to admit it or not, I promise it's still part of the theme, they're basically the radio and TV police. Because they tell you what you can air, when you can air it, how you can air it, and they fine you if you don't do it. So they are basically another enforcement arm of the federal government. And we've just given them carte blanche control over the interwebs. I know I've talked about this before, but it bears repeating that we just gave carte blanche control of the internet to the FCC. Yet another scary alphabet soup agency has now got even more control from us than we ever wanted them to have. And yet we willingly give it away because we keep voting for the same people over and over and over again. Because we are too busy doing our own version here in 2015 of what those particular police officers were just doing. Oh, come on, cheer up. It's not so bad. Play some music. Watch your favorite TV show. It'll be all right. It'll all work itself out. We're going to hell. We're burning in. We're on fire. And nobody cares. Nobody's noticing. Nobody's saying anything about it. And yet now we have somebody deciding that the police departments need to be nicer, kinder, gentler. Don't tell racist or sexist jokes. You know what? Screw you. It's the First Amendment, for God's sake. That doesn't give you the right to not be offended. It gives me the right to say whatever the hell I want, and if you don't like it, you can go away. That's why it's called the First Amendment. You don't have to listen. But don't tell me that I can't say something just because you're afraid it's going to offend someone. You know what? I'm just going to say this, and it's probably going to make me sound completely racist. You know what? This is just one of those IDGAF days, because that's exactly how I feel. I haven't done a show other than Finding Common Ground in like 10 days because I've been dealing with so many other things. And when I've tried to do a show, there's been other things that have cropped up. So this is just going to be one of those episodes where I just let it all out, and we're going to wind up wherever we wind up. And if you listen, great. If you don't, that's fine too. But simply put, I have a brother-in-law who his father's Mexican. I make fun of this guy all the time, but this only makes sense to you if you know me personally, because I get picked on all the time too. I mean, just to give you a mental image, for those of you who may not know, I am about 5'8.5", I weigh about 260 pounds. It used to be more muscle. Now that I don't have a job where I'm out running around, walking around, chasing people, running around with a bulletproof vest and a gun belt on all the time, it's not as much muscle as it used to be. But thanks to situations beyond my control, I also have a limp, and I have an eye that likes to look like it's looking off in another direction. And every once in a while, it will actually switch directions. Which, honestly, is a funny story, but it used to work to my benefit pretty well when I was a private investigator. There was more than once that I was able to make people not think I was surveilling them by acting up exactly what their first impression of me was. But I'm not going to do that on the air because I might offend someone. But yeah, if you know me personally, I've done it before. So yeah, giggle away because you have it in your head. So it's okay. Okay, but that being said, so I make fun of this guy all the time, but we make fun of each other. That's how I roll with a lot of my friends. I have friends that I used to work with that are the same way. We used to try to embarrass the crap out of each other on purpose just to see if we could do it. Because that's the type of sense of humor that a lot of folks that deal with high-stress situations on a daily basis, that's the type of sense of humor that we have. Because it's a coping mechanism. And now all of a sudden we've got this stupid little thing that the New York Police Department's put out that basically everybody's labeling policing for dummies that says, oh, don't be a racist, don't be a bad guy, don't do this, don't do that. Really, these are things that they already know. These are things that most of them already don't do. So why don't you deal with the ones that you know have problems and leave the rest of them alone? Because it's a pretty simple way there's pretty easy ways to tell who's a good cop and who's not a good cop. Now, again, like I said, I'm all over the place today. So back to what I was saying a second ago. I have a brother-in-law who's part Mexican. I make fun of him all the time. Because it's funny, because we make fun of each other. But, other people here do it, and they're like, oh my God, did you hear what he just said? Yeah, I called him a damn Mexican. What is your point? Did I offend you? Because if I did, just kindly go away, because this is how we deal with, this is how we communicate with one another. And I have another clip, again, that I'll probably play when we take a break here, after we take a break here in just a second, because we are getting pretty close to the bottom of the hour. But, this is my point. If the people that are involved in the conversation are okay with it, and you're not directly disparaging anyone who's not involved in the conversation, people need to just grow the hell up. I can't even count the number of times that I and another coworker of mine at a previous place that I worked, after I got out of the private security and law enforcement field, were basically called into the HR office on a weekly basis because we would give each other a hard time on the call floor. I mean, I don't think we ever got called in together, but I know there were several times that he was in there, and there were several times that I was in there, and there were people that would hear things that he was saying to me, and they would tell me that I needed to file a complaint, and I needed to do this, and I needed to do that, because what he was doing was completely wrong and inappropriate, and by God, I should have hurt feelings. And I looked straight at them, and I said, I don't have hurt feelings. I give him just as much crap as he gives me, because that's the type of friendship that we have. It took us a while to get there, and at first, I have to admit, the first few times he took stabs at me, I didn't like him very much, but then because here's the thing, a lot of times, and this has happened at the new job, there will be people that will take shots at me, and I will let them have a few before I really, and try to gauge them and see if they're one of the ones that can give it out as well as they can take it. Oh God, that sounded completely wrong. But anyway, you know where I was going with that. But there are people who can dish out all the funny, sarcastic crap they want, but God forbid you start giving them some back, and oh my God, it's like a total meltdown. I was actually training someone recently, and the same thing happened, where they had been giving me a hard time for days. So finally, after, joking around with them a little bit, and them giving me a hard time, I decided to reciprocate, and all of a sudden they were completely offended. I'm like, okay, well, here's the thing. Don't give crap if you're not willing to take it. And that's exactly what I kept telling everybody when it comes to this gentleman, as well as my brother-in-law, is I don't give people crap unless I know they can take it. And usually I don't give them crap unless they give me crap first, and then I will try it. If it doesn't work, then I just tell them, I advise you at this point to stop being a smartass, because if you continue to be a smartass, then I won't be held responsible for the fact that I will eviscerate you with my sarcasticness. Because it's what I do. It's how I roll. And, if it's going to offend you, then, and it does offend you at some point, then I will say, look, I only did this because you usually start it first. So I assumed you were okay with it. Apparently you're not, because you are whining like a little girl. So it's time to stop. So you stop, I stop, everything's good. If it's something where, one of us looks at the other like, crap, I found my new sarcasm buddy. I mean, that's how I look at it. I enjoy being sarcastic. What the hell is the matter with that? Why is it not okay? If somebody looks at me and says, hey, you look like the dude from Goonies, the little dude that was always yelling at Baby Ruth. I'm like, okay, that's cool. You look like Shrek from the Ogre movies. So yeah, hey, new best buddy. That's just how I roll. So I don't understand why everybody else has to get offended, but that's kind of my whole point. And my recurring theme for this entire show is, we have this whole hyper-active sensitivity thing going on everywhere. You can't be racist unless you're white. You can't be sexist unless you're male. A gay couple can sue someone for not wanting to make them a wedding cake, but a pastor goes into a gay wedding cake bakery and asks them to make a Christian cake, and they are summarily removed from the building, no lawsuit available. Why is it always a one-way street? Why is it that there are plenty of instances and examples of racism outside of the Caucasian race, And nobody wants to talk about those because it can't really be racism, because in order for it to be racism, it has to be the people that were originally doing the oppressing that are doing the oppressing now, because you can't oppress the oppressor. Well, I have news for you. We haven't been oppressors for a very long time. And the whole fact that at this point you are trying to use that as your logic is a fallacy, because there were quite a few African American slave owners. There were people that were free men, and they owned slaves, and they were black. So where's your racism with that crap now? All right, so at this point, we are going to have to take a little bit of a break. I didn't realize we were actually running a little long, so bear with me for just a moment while we get a few things queued up here. And we will be right back here in just a couple minutes with America Off the Rails. I am, of course, your host, Rick Robinson, and I will be right back with you here in just a moment.
Off the Rails.
A show that will change internet radio as you know it.
Okay, so let's talk about the story, which I think is hilarious. I'm just going to refer to it as the poop plane, because, like, what else are you going to call it? But there was this plane. Okay, it took off. It's the British Airways. They were going to Dubai. I have a hard time pronouncing that one.
It was British Airways. It wasn't jet. It wasn't jet poo.
It wasn't.
Couldn't resist. I'm sorry.
I like it. This story. If we've ever had a story that is up our alley, it's this one. It's bathroom humor up from front to back of the airplane. Apparently, they had to turn around to go back to Heathrow because they said the smelly poo in the toilet became unbearable for passengers, and it was so bad. They decided it's so bad that they had to turn around and go back rather than continue their flight. They decided that there wasn't enough Febreze, there wasn't enough anything to handle this.
Maybe they should see a doctor. Is there a GoFundMe for this guy?
It must be a woman, because a woman's going to be mortified and embarrassed. If this is a guy, you know that he's like out there on Twitter and everything else saying, dude, I took down an airplane with how bad that I laid it down.
There was an old woman who flew on jet poo. She ate so many burritos she didn't know what to do.
So we turned the plane around because they made a big stink. We've just made it into a haiku at the end, but there had to be something.
Real Serious Nonsense, Mondays, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, now on K98 Talk.
This is Misty, owner of Wax It Studio in Edmond, Oklahoma, and I'm here to talk to you about a skincare product called Theramedics. Theramedics has a wonderful line of products from anti-aging to hyperpigmentations all the way to acne. In fact, everyone at some point in our life is affected by acne. Acne can cause a great deal of embarrassment and anxiety, and in order to prevent and help other people, I have tapped into this wonderful product called Theramedics. Visit my website at www.prettyskindeep.com. Again, that's www.prettyskindeep.com.
Not on my watch, our military service members say, as they volunteer to serve, as they move out, stand firm, and take fire. So not on our watch, we say, to the severely ill or injured veterans who can't get the care they deserve to live full and independent lives, even when there's no government funding or a nursing home seems like the only option. We won't leave one warrior behind. Not on our watch. Join us at findwwp.org.
We got a pen and telephone to bypass all your laws. laws will replace the Bill of Rights. Support religious freedom lest you pray to Jesus Christ. The press is in our pockets cause it's no longer free. You cannot make a move now that the NSA can see. Don't expect equality, respect for fair play. The IRS will target those who vote the wrong way. Welcome to the place. Welcome to the place.
All right, folks, we're back. We're live. We are into the last part of the show. I'll probably cut it a few minutes short here because I did get a little bit of a late start, and I don't want to throw things off for the folks that will be coming on behind us. Now, of course, as soon as this episode stops, you will hear Liz Harrison, which actually aired earlier today, but we're going to let it replay as soon as this show's done. And then we'll be live back again here in just a little bit with The Right Angle. Now, because I did tell you guys I was going to give you a little bit of a warning, I'll let you know here in just a minute when I'm going to play the clip that has quite a lot of language in it, but I promise it's related to the overall context of the show. Before we get into that, I do have an announcement, and I can't believe I actually have waited this long to say it, because I have to admit, I'm really, really, really excited. Okay, so, we've been doing this now for about 2.5 years. We've gotten some pretty good feedback, gotten some things put together with a business partner of mine who's done FM radio for a while. We decided that we were going to take things in a slightly different direction, and at least for the first time that I know of that it's happened, we've actually patterned an internet station kind of off of the pattern of a terrestrial AM station where, it's mainly political, but occasionally, later at night, the gloves come off, the tinfoil hat goes on, and some folks just have some fun. And no, I'm not trying to disparage any of the folks that are doing the overnight shows that we currently have. It's just that's kind of the genre that a lot of AM stations have is the out there stuff, the stuff that may or may not be true. I mean, I can't say anything one way or another. There are a few things that I have my own conspiracy theories on, and I have always been a big fan of AM Coast to Coast, especially back when it was still being run by Art Bell. Honestly, not much of a George Norrie fan. Nothing against George, but he's not Art Bell. Well, there are, like I said, some folks that do some late night stuff that we are here too, and I just occasionally like to give them a shout out, especially because they just made the announcement that they have become their own 24/7 station, so you can catch them here as well as there. Not trying to give them any free publicity, but we do play them at night, so obviously, of course, want to try to support them as much as we can. Now, that being said, one of the things, like I said, it's been a long, slow process because we've done things a little bit differently than some, and we probably could have found some quicker ways to cut corners, make some really quick money, and see what we could build out of it. But I haven't wanted to do that, so it's been a long, slow, steady building process. All of this leads up to what I'm about to tell you now. Some of you, if you follow me on Twitter, you already know, and if you're not following me on Twitter, see, you would have known something before I talked about it on the show, so you probably should be following me there. Speaking of which, you can follow me there at _R_OKC. Pulls right up to me, yours truly, Rick Robinson. You can also follow me on Facebook at www.facebook.com/Rowdy Ricky Robinson. And of course, I have my trusty, handy email, which I know kind of dates me and shows my age because who the heck really uses email anymore? But it's Ricky at thesparkradionetwork.com, which is actually the company that I founded. K98 Talk, I am the programming director for them, but I'm not one of the founding partners. But I am working with a couple of folks that are the founding partners, and they were the ones that gave me their overall concept and basically turned me loose with it. So this has become what it is now. And we are still adding things, changing things, have a couple of announcements I think you'll like for the near future. But without further ado, the announcement I've been trying to make and keep finding ways to go completely around the bend and back again is we have officially been extended press credentials. We, as a station, will be present at the Southern Republican Leadership Conference in May of 2015, right here in my home state and my home city of Oklahoma City. And not only that, we were actually contacted and made aware that since we had requested it, we will have a spot on Radio Row, which means myself and my good friend Grouchy, some of you may know him as G. I do think he actually tried to go by his first name for a while, but I'll let him decide whether he wants to tell you what that's going to be or not. We will actually be there for the entirety of the conference. He will actually be there for longer than me. I'll be there for the Thursday and Friday sessions. My son is graduating high school that Saturday afternoon, so I will not be present. I just found out I probably could swing it because his graduation isn't until 5. But as the father, I'm sure there are things that may come up beforehand, and I want to make sure that I'm there. So I will be there Thursday and Friday. As far as I know, Grouchy will be there Thursday, Friday, and Saturday for the last half-day session where they do the straw polls. My plans are to do broadcasts at least on both Thursdays and Fridays as often as possible. Just because. I mean, come on. It's a live event. We'll be there. There's going to be presidential candidates there. There's going to be folks like Donald Trump and T. Boone Pickens there. I'm considering just walking around with I don't know. I'm trying to figure out a way to get some money from the rich guys. I haven't figured that out yet. But anyway, all kidding aside, it's a complete honor to be there. I actually reached out to them to find out if they had any audio promo spots available, and apparently they do not. However, because it's one of the first times we've been included in anything like this, I have our promo guy working on a few things that will hopefully be airing for a couple of weeks before the big show. So, yes, K98Talk.com will be not only at the Southern Republican Leadership Conference covering the event, we will also be on Radio Row. Not sure who of the big boys, if any, are going to be there, but whoever's going to be there, better look out. No, I'm just playing. Alright, so anyway, as promised, last clip of the evening, and this one is a little specific and graphic. So, if there are any little ears present, please feel free to turn away. The clip will only run for about 1 minute and 50 seconds. So if nothing else, if you have to turn it down, make sure you come back. What do you say? Okay, so 5. Last chance to turn it down. 4. Better turn it down now. 3. Still waiting. Turn it down. 2. At this point, if you're still listening and you have children in the room, you have been warned. And 1.
Illegal. Alcohol, caffeine, contact sports, meat.
Are you shitting me?
John Spartan, you are fined 1 credit for a violation of the verbal morality statute.
What the hell is that?
John Spartan, you are fined 1 credit.
Bad language, chocolate, gasoline, uneducational toys, and anything spicy.
Zach Lamb? What happened to you?
I got older.
My God. I remember when you were a snot-nosed rookie pilot.
They finally grounded me.
Shit. You're a damn good flight.
You are fined 2 credits for a violation of the verbal morality statute.
I'll be right back.
They seem to be friends, yet he speaks to him in the most profane manner.
Well, if you had read my study, you would know that this is how insecure heterosexual males used to bond.
I knew that.
Thanks a lot, you shit-brain.
John Spartan, you are fined. John Spartan, you are John Spartan. You are John Spartan, you are fined 5 credits for repeated violations of the verbal morality statute.
So much for the seashells. See you in a few minutes.
Termination.
Alright, honestly, I let some of that play a little longer only because, I don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to get away with not bleeping things. Thanks to the FCC. But you're asking right now, why in the world would you play that clip? You've been talking about Demolition Man a lot today. Okay, well, let's rewind to what we opened the show with. Other than the potato chip thing. We have now got the NYPD putting out literature that tells cops to be nice. That tells cops to not be racist. That tells cops to not make what other people might consider bad jokes. So, before you make fun, let's also not forget that Demolition Man predicted that Arnold Schwarzenegger would be a governor and eventually a president. So far, we haven't repealed the amendment that would stop him from being able to do that yet, but that didn't stop. Well, never mind. That would have been one of my little tinfoil hat moments, I guess. So I'm not going to bring that to bear today. No. But, I'm just saying. Yes, it's all in fun, but look at what we're dealing with now. Look at what we're dealing with now. We have police officers that are basically being told that they can't make disparaging remarks. They can't intimidate the speech patterns of others. Again, I'm kind of struggling with the language there because I'm pretty sure they probably meant intimate, which, like I said, basically fancy word to copy somebody. But, it's a symptom of all of the same problems. And those symptoms were evident throughout that entire movie. That entire movie. And actually, just because there's one other clip that I used to play quite a bit back when we first started the show. Tried to come up with some creative thing to call the group of loyal core fans that we had back in the day. And so I came up with this idea of playing this clip anytime I wanted to give you guys a shout out. And give me just a second. Gotta get it pulled up. And for those of you who were wondering, yes, that was a plane just flying over. Sorry, the weather's nice where I'm at. I thought I would have the windows open, but occasionally I forget. I do live near an airfield. Okay, so here is the clip that I used to play a lot, which kind of sums up exactly how I feel about the whole, gotta force me to watch what I eat, what I watch, when I watch it, how much of it I watch, and yada, yada, yada that we are dealing with now on a daily basis. And it's only getting worse. Another thing that Demolition Man seems to have gotten right.
I'm the enemy because I like to think. I like to read. I'm into freedom of speech and freedom of choice. I'm the kind of guy who likes to sit in a greasy spoon and wonder, gee, should I have the T-bone steak or the jumbo rack of barbecue ribs with the side order of gravy fries? I want high cholesterol. I want to eat bacon and butter and buckets of cheese, okay? I want to smoke a Cuban cigar the size of Cincinnati in the non-smoking section. I want to run through the streets naked with green jello all over my body reading Playboy magazine. Why? Because I suddenly might feel the need to, okay, pal? I've seen the future. You know what it is? It's a 47-year-old virgin sitting around in his beige pajamas, drinking a banana broccoli shake, singing, I'm an Oscar Mayer wiener.
And I'm telling you, folks, that's where we're headed. If we do not do away with this politically correct BS that is running rampant in our country right now. I mean, come on, let's think back to the stories that were running just even a little over a year ago about the kid that was suspended from school because he ate his Pop-Tart into the shape of a gun and pointed it at somebody. Last I checked, a Pop-Tart can't kill people. I'm not quite sure why the kid was suspended. If you were that strongly opposed to him pretending that was a gun, maybe you should have talked to him. Maybe you should have scheduled a time to talk to him and his parents. But to suspend the kid because he pointed a Pop-Tart at somebody? These are the kind of things that we're starting to see more and more and more of. Here in my home state, they have now decided in one of the major metropolitan school districts that they are going to, and they haven't told us what it is yet, but they're no longer suspending kids because they're going to try to find another way to discipline them that doesn't involve suspending them. Okay, well, pardon me, there are certain people, I think, that deserve to be suspended for the safety of the other students. And we already have things like ISS. They had ISS when I was a kid. I had to have a surgery when I was a kid. And because of the fact that, for some reason, I guess because it was kind of against doctor's orders, my mom decided that I needed to go back to school after the surgery was over. And I was placed in ISS for 2 days because of the pain medication that they had me on. Interesting reason to wind up in ISS, but nonetheless, it did happen. Now, that being said, if we already have a room in place for kids that do things that are stupid, then why can we not use that? Because it's not like they're getting a paid vacation away from school. They're not staying at home. They're doing their work. They're just doing it at another location where they can be more closely monitored. But again, we can't do that because of the political correct BS that's running rampant everywhere. I don't understand it because it's like on one hand we're like this super moral majority where you can't be mean to people and you can't say mean things but on the same token you have all of these news stories that I'm thinking looking at all these teachers that are currently having sexual encounters of one form or another, whether they be digital or physical, with their students. And first thing I'm thinking, honestly, come on, I'm a guy. Everybody else, you might as well just raise your hand who's a guy. First thing you're thinking when you see some of these teachers is, where the heck were you when I was in junior high school? Just saying, but at the same time, we can't do this, can't do that, but sex is good, you might as well have it with your students. It's just this complete dichotomy. It's like on one hand, we have this Mother Teresa complex, and on the other hand, we have the Whoopi Goldberg, we're in a habit complex, where it's like, oh yeah, it looks good, so let's do it, baby. Come on. I mean, I don't understand this. I don't understand the mindset where on one hand, we can have all of this PC crap, and on the other hand, we can have all of this outbreak of all of these things that are going wrong that shouldn't be. And I would like to point this out just in closing, because we are down to a few more minutes. I told everybody, and I warned everybody, and you can call me a homophobe, whatever you want to do. I'm not homophobic. I don't care what those people that are attracted to the same sex, what you do is none of my business. But I warned everyone when we finally decided as a nation that we were going to normalize them. And that's what we've done. You know, you can call me a hater. And again, I'm not saying I have family members that are gay. I have friends that are gay. You know, I'm not going to mention anybody by name, but they know who they are. Simple fact of the matter is, that changes your perspective a little bit. But that's still, I still told everybody this because this is what's happening now. Yes, now gay marriage is a lot more accepted. There are certain places like here that it's kind of not. And the legislation is doing whatever they can to keep it from happening. But now you have the gay mafia on one side. Yes, I said the gay mafia. And no, I don't mean some guy in drag running around throwing Skittles saying, "Taste the rainbow, bitches!" No, I'm talking about the actual gay mafia, who basically goes into a place and says, "Service or we're going to sue you." That's the gay mafia I'm referring to. Or, you know, bake me a cake or I'm going to sue you. Or, yes, Mr. Baptist preacher, you have to marry me or I'm going to sue you. That's the gay mafia. That's the vocal minority that has the entire movement sewn up. Sewn up. And then on the other side of the coin, you have all of these other idiots who are making things worse. Because now that the gay people have been normalized, you see all of these stories starting to creep up about how, you know, pedophiles are people too, and it's not their fault that they're attracted to children, and child love is normal, and yada yada yada, blah blah blah. I told you, once we started down this road, it wasn't going to stop. It may be another 20, 30, 40 years, provided we're allowed to exist that long, but at some point, it's going to have been marginal. It's going to be so less marginalized and so much more normalized, because now being gay is everywhere. Case in point, they just wrote one of the X-Men characters is coming out of the closet. Why do you think they did that? Because it's very popular right now to have gay people everywhere. You know, and this is my thing. If you look at the gay population, there's such a small percentage. I mean, let's be honest. I'm not saying that to be mean to them. I'm saying this as a point. They're a very small percentage. Actually, off the top of my head, other than the fact that I used to work in the gay community when I went private sector, I can think of I know of only 3 people in my entire life that I would have known that were gay, if not for the fact that I used to work in the gay community. And I know 2 of them because I used to work in places where they were, and one of them I guess it would be 4. But I'm 42 years old. I will be next month. And other than the fact that I actually worked in that community, I can think off the top of my head of 4 people that I know that would have been considered homosexual. But they're everywhere now. I mean, they're being written out on comic books. You can't turn on a TV show anymore without there being a gay character. It's the new black. You remember the 60s when, you know, they had like Uhura and Sulu and all the different people of color that were just starting to kind of evolve into TV shows? The gay is the new black. Because now you have to have the token gay guy. If I were gay, I'd be pissed. That all of a sudden now, because it's in vogue to be the gay guy, all of a sudden now there's got to be a gay guy on every freaking TV show, and they're writing them out in comic books. I'm just thinking, you know, if it were me, if I were gay, I'd be pissed. But, you know, you guys, you know, that are letting your movement be swallowed up by the loudest, noisiest, smallest of your group. Yes, I put emphasis on the word small for a reason. You figure it out. Anyway, that being said, you know, stop letting the vocal minorities run everything, because the simple fact of the matter is the vocal minority is what's causing the majority of the mess that we're in right now, in pretty much every way possible. All right, so as I normally do, and honestly, I just realized I haven't been doing something that I used to do. So I think this Saturday I'll be running the Declaration of Independence in its entirety, because I don't actually remember the last time that I did that. Since we went 6 days a week and then down to like 4 days a week, and now pretty much whenever I can get around to it, days a week. Just kidding. I am going to try to get back to at least 5 days a week here pretty soon. But that being said, as I used to close the show when I was doing this a lot more often before the programming director hat started getting more and more heavily on my head, it's time to get involved. It's time to get off the couch. It's time to put down the remote. It's time to stop worrying about keeping up with the Joneses. The simple fact of the matter is, if nothing else, what we've talked about today should tell you and show you that the world is on fire. And nobody's doing anything about it. It's time to pick up a bucket. It's time to pick up a water hose. It's time to do something. If we all start working together to get things going in the right direction again, there is still time. But at this point, if we don't get someone in the White House who knows how the hell to run a business, because that's all this country actually is a glorified company, think about it. You'll figure it out. Congress is the board of directors. President is the CEO. The people are the shareholders. Come on, work with me here. But anyway, I'm just saying, the whole point is, it's almost too late. We fell asleep for way too long. I really thought we were going to wake up in 2012. If we don't make a change in 2016, we are in trouble. And I'm not just talking about with the presidency. I'm talking about with Congress in general, because we had a bunch of folks that told us what we wanted to hear, and then we got them elected, and now they've done jack crap since they've been in there. It's time to do term limits. It was a good idea for the president. It's a great idea for Congress. And then as far as I'm concerned, we need to start with an Article 5. Look it up. Don't have time to tell you about it. Maybe we'll talk about it tomorrow. Speaking of which, no, tomorrow's Wednesday. Never mind. But for tomorrow, we will have the Conservative Curmudgeon Radio Show, and then Politibunny, and then Jason Wilkins. And then Thursday, I will be doing a very special episode of America Off the Rails, joined by Rod Eccles, one of the newest hosts here on K98 Talk through our syndication group. Don't own the rights to the show, but we do play him. He'll be joining me here as a guest, and we will be spending the entire hour on Thursday the 24th. And then, again, don't forget, if you want to check out some live action and maybe get some pictures and stuff posted to the K98 Facebook page, we will be at the SRLC 2015 right here, May 21st through the 23rd. All right, this is Rick Robinson. That's going to have to do us for tonight, because at this point we have officially run over into the top of the next hour. So it's time to let Liz take over the reins, and then we will have the right angle playing shortly thereafter. All right, you guys have a great night. We are out.
Screw you guys. I'm going home. Later.
Game over.